Do you want to do introductions like last week?
Yeah, I definitely do. So, hello for friends that are coming on and are joining us live. We're calling our little segment, our chat, Yogis Off the Mat. So, we're really diving into anything, everything yoga. But we are this week specifically today talking about sacred space in your own house. Most of us are quarantined. So, how do we set it up when we're not at the studio? But this is my dear friend Cherise, and she is an amazing yoga teacher and artist, and really all things service, all things helper and wellness. And so she's really awesome, and her sacred space is really sweet, but it's all self kind of built and made. And so this is the lady right here.
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, thank you. You always feel like kind and giving in all of your introduction.
You tell about me. How awesome am
Exactly.
I?
We're
Okay.
ready. Okay, so this is our Southern Beauty, Kelly. She is currently in South California, SoCal,
Yeah.
San Diego. I always like say it weird. It's obviously clear that I don't live there. Um, Also, our little yoga everything. Minx, you're doing all the things. So you're doing Zoom classes for all the jobs that you were doing prior to a little quarantine time. And then we are exploring further past that, like you said, Yogis Off the Mat. And I mean, we're doing a lot of things right now, but this talk really is about this, right? Like, so today, talking about sacred space. I'm trying to get everything loaded up behind you, and it's not quite working, but still working on it.
Okay, hopefully friends will know this is our first time on Facebook Live, and we're yoga teachers. We're not super technical. We are getting there. We're gonna be technical, but as of right now, we're still just kind of working on it.
Yep.
So first thing, we love lists. We always have questions and we always have lists. And even when we go completely off the list, we just like to have a list, have something to start with. So we're talking about moving stuff around in your living room, basically, or in your bedroom, or maybe you have a spare room, something that, as you were talking about, was previously your office, like it was designated for work only. So, what's kind of the first thing that's on the list? What is a sacred space? What are we talking about? Do you have to be a yoga teacher to have a sacred space? Do you need someone to like come and bless it? What are we talking about?
Yeah, right. Those are really good questions.
No. Do we need a shaman?
Right? Shaman in the house. Let's get one. I think that is perfect little intro to everything. So, I feel like sacred space is the same as like someone's practice, right? Because it looks different for everyone. So just like knowing that and knowing that like as for the huge, I feel like I say this a million times a day, but like where you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. So like you might have like a space in mind, like physically in your house or whatever that you're like, okay, yeah, I can carve out that space, whatever. But I think the intricacies of that, to your point, it doesn't have to be less. Sorry, I'm a little babbly. I'm gonna try and reel that in for us, but work out the cobwebs. But it does not need to be blessed. It does not need to actually be anything in particular. Again, like it can be anything, but I think the things that I think about and have like kind of worked through the years. Again, you don't need to be a yoga teacher at all, and kind of pausing on that idea. What is your practice, right? Like, what do you need this sacred space for? So let's start there. Um, Whatever your practices are, because that can look so many different ways. So, like, if you want to do like an actual asana practice where you're going to do whatever kind of yoga, because there's so many types of yoga that we can all do, right? So, like, that's the easiest way that comes to mind. Most people think of. You can have a meditation practice. You can have a spiritual practice of your own, whatever that is. So there's a lot of different things that we can call it practice, and so holding a sacred space for that is just really carving out a space, whether it's literally a corner in a room, or if it's, you were kind of even mentioning, like, we're all living in different spaces, whether they're tiny or huge, whatever the situation is. Some people have no outside space. Some people have more outside space than inside space. So just working with what you got. You mentioned something beautiful the other day of like even being in your bedroom. If that's all you got and you're just like, all right, I'm gonna make my bed, throw it on my mat, and here we go. So to answer your big overall arcing question, sacred space can be whatever you want, but you know, actually putting the thoughtfulness behind where you want it and how that works functionally for you.
So yeah, so I love that. So where you want it is the big deal. Where is the place in your house that feels really nice, that feels really comfortable? This is always a good place to start. And sometimes, you know, if it is your bedroom, it's a matter of just, yeah, making your bed or moving some laundry out of the way or physically moving stuff around so that you have a nice view, even if it's just of some plant that you potted or some picture that you love, that you're really setting yourself up for success. So on a physical level, you know, space could be anywhere. Most, most often we want it to be somewhere comfortable. So if it's outside, you really don't need to move anything around because outside is great. But if you don't have any outside and you're like, but I really like nature, maybe all you need is to open a window or to move a plant or to do something that really just enhances the physical space. And then as we're kind of dancing into the more subtle, it is, you know, what's the feeling of, well, my house is pretty clean. I'm not even going to say super clean because my house is like only mildly together. But when my house is pretty clean, I'm more likely to stay on my mat and out of my head versus when everything's looking crazy, it's really hard to sit down and meditate. I mean, if there's like not a bed made or everything feels everywhere, immediately I'm going to be distracted by the largest item or the most overwhelming kind of thing. So then my
energetic space.
Yeah, that's kind of my next thing is so physically, you know, you're moving stuff in a way that feels good. And then energetically, you know, you want to set yourself up, especially while you're in quarantine. You don't have to be the most productive person on the planet. You just have to move stuff around enough where you're like, okay, this feels like I want to sit down for 30 minutes and check out that YouTube yoga class.
Definitely. Yeah, I think like you're kind of already diving into that, but like recognizing what the hurdles are for yourself. So like a lot of everything that we're kind of going through today is really more just talking about like I like to think awareness, right? So like how do we tap into that deeper awareness of okay, well these are the things, these are, you have to listen to that internal voice that's like, well, I can't because of all these things. And then you start to dissect that and say, well, can I? You know, like, well, oh, well, I don't have a space. Okay, well, can you create a space? And then, well, I can't because it's dirty. Okay, well, can you move things around to, even if it's temporary? Like you told me, you live in a small space, and to do your job now online, you have to move your couch every single time. You have to move where your actual shoes go, and
full on living room shuffle.
Yeah.
It is full on everything moves and then everything moves back and then everything moves back around. And then I have this poor plant. He's behind me now. This is really where it lives, but I have this poor plant that just like becomes the traveling altar and just moves around, you know, and I'm like, oh, well, now this plant, you know, needs to be in the corner. So plants don't really want to move, but this plant is like now just traveling all around the house. And because it's that because it makes me feel good. It makes me like I like to look at it, and so it's worth it to me. It adds value. So you know, what's kind of the stuff that's adding value?
Definitely, exactly. And so just finding ways to recognize what your hurdles are, and then negotiate with those hurdles of like, we always have, I feel like as humans in general, we have this ideal expectation, and if we can't live up to that ideal, then it's not worth doing at all. But I would like to challenge that and say, you know, well, what kind of thing can you do right now, and just start there. And like each day just like see what that brings. Or even if like, what if you're only really like have the emotional space to do this once a week? That's fine. But like be where you are and like recognize and like keep tapping in, keep seeing like where today might be different than the last time you did it, whenever that was. And having that open space for yourself, that negotiation of like, do what can I give today to create a sacred safe space for myself. And yeah, so I think I'm just looking at my notes here to kind of remind myself of the things that we want to talk about, but we want to find that space that we can clear out, shift things as needed. And it could be as big or small as you want. And then, something that I love to to do. And we've kind of talked about, I know I've taken yoga classes where other teachers have talked about this, especially now that we're all kind of in our homes and connecting that way. But things that are special to you, and you've already mentioned it with like your plant or whatever, but if you're thinking to yourself, okay, like I want to create a sacred space for myself, and oh, I have this designated area. Great. Now what? You can make it as simple or as complex as you want it, right? So like you could throw your mat down and the cleanliness of nothing around you is what gives you space and makes you feel ready and liberated to do things. Great. Then that's you. You do you, boo. But if it's more than that, then it's more than that. You know, like for me, I have like a singing bowl and I have like all these like stones and I have malas and just like things that make me feel good, or even
Do you have something with a mantra? Do you have something with a mantra on it?
I don't, this could be a mantra, but I got this from the very first retreat that I went to as a gift. So be the type of person you want to meet. And it's like a little notebook that I don't write in. And I literally just put it up as decoration. It used to live in my living room. Now it happens to live at like my little yoga altar because it's like the only thing that has words for me that lives in my yoga space. And
I want to see. I want to see the picture frame. I want to see the picture frame. This is the mantra.
On my desk. This is special to me because my therapist from a few years ago that helped me through a lot of really hard things had brought me back this thing as a gift when she went to Oregon. And it says, there we go. It says, "You're doing a fucking great job." And so I framed it and I put it on my desk. And so anytime I'm working on things, like, that's where I do a lot of work that is hard and it's challenging and I can doubt myself and I can totally sit there and like, you know, because like you said, we're yogis, you know, sometimes the technical stuff is hard. Sometimes I'm working on my website or whatever it is I'm doing and I'm doubting myself and I'm just kind of like, you know, and then I look up and I see my little reminder that's like, you know, you're doing a fucking great job. Sorry for all the F-bombs, guys. If you know me, this is common. Probably can censor this out later, but so
like censoring. We're not censoring any of it.
Here we are. We're just human like everyone. So again, like just finding things that really work for you and like the different scenarios of like what are your challenges? Because once you recognize those challenges, you can find tools to help yourself through them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love, you know, creating things that make you laugh, creating things that are fun, and finding a way to make those challenges something that are accessible. Like these are things that are hard and raw and real. I mean, these are real things, but when you look at something that gives you some joy or you remember someone that really helped you, it instantly just creates something that is more sacred, a space that you're like, this is mine. This gives me value. And I think also, you know, kind of surrounding, bridging that physical gap and the more subtle gap is, you know, smells. Smells of sacred space can be really, really great. You can light a candle or an incense or whatever you love. Palo Santo is like my new favorite sage because it just smells so earthy. It's so grounding and really, really nice. And so if you're like, I think I want to do some yoga or I want to meditate or even I want to clean my living room, then you can, you know, spark some of those smells and it will change what's happening in your brain. It will change how your mind is viewing that sensation.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of like sets the stage for like, okay, and the subtle little message is saying, okay, this is what we're doing now. And it's clearing space. So all of these different things, if you think about creating sacred space as clearing space, you know, that's, it doesn't, it, sorry, I'm stumbling here, but like, it's the physical, it's the mental, it's the emotional, like you've already touched on, it's the subtle bodies, it's the physical world, it's all of it. So clearing space within all of those things. And even on that, like, let me look down at my other notes here. So, okay, so for me, I even wrote down like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and energetically, just like prompters in my own mind of, again, where I could even just like and this might be a great tool for others, but you can even just list what are the types of things that you tell yourself that might be hurdles and just like separate them out in that way, possibly. So even as an example, for me, and time is such a weird metaphysical thing, right? So like, let's not get into that theory right now, but I put it under the category of mental because it for me feels very just like I'm in my head and I'm like thinking to myself like, oh, I can't do whatever my practice is today because I don't have enough time, right? So
Yes.
it's like we all have so much more time now, right? Like theoretically, because we're quarantined. But I'm very aware that most people are probably busier than ever. You know, like some people, this is a great time of slowing down. Some people, they're now homeschooling and working and like have the kids all the time. So many things. So definitely aware that like there's so many different challenges in this time frame for so many different people. But I do think that like telling ourselves that we don't have time is probably pretty universal. And with that, I would love to just say there's a couple of things that I do. One, so also another thing about me is like I like to have like plan A, B, C, and D because I'm very aware that like life doesn't work the way you technically like want it to work a lot of the time. So I just have like other plans where I'm like, well, if that one doesn't work out, I'll do this one, right? So like this kind of falls into that. So my ideal time frame situation that I've actually been working on for like 4 years, and all of my mentors and I talk about it all the time, is I need to get up in the morning and just like you do a routine. You go to the bathroom, do your things in there, and then you go and you sit and you start your practices right there. And I literally, like I said, I've had so many teachers, so many mentors, like we have long conversations about this and they really try to push me towards it because they're like, this is the answer. And I agree, it's the answer. And I still struggle with like following through, right? So then when I don't hit my ideal time space thing that I wanted to do, my backup plan is then, okay, when can I do it? Right? Like, and I'll be real with myself. And like, of course, then you hear the other voices of like, oh, I don't want to, or this, that, and other. And maybe you have to address those voices. But when it comes to time, I think you can have an ideal situation and then you can have a backup plan of, well, maybe I'll do it at this time. I'll fit it in here. And then maybe your backup plan to your backup plan is, you know what? The feelings have sparked inside of me, and right now it feels like a really good moment, even if it's 5 minutes. Great, do it. Like grab that sacred space, sit down, and just be like, I'm here, and just see what comes.
I really love that. I think that kind of really segues into giving ourselves permission to do what we need. You know, when there's now definitely some people are slowing down, but a lot of us are busier than ever. And
Right.
and we're feeling a little bit alone because we're very busy, but we're not having that normal contact with our friends, with our family members as we usually do. So we're feeling overwhelmed and we're feeling, is everyone feeling this or is it just me? You know, we start a lot of this inner dialogue that may or may not be actually helping or working. And then you're getting on social media platforms or whatever, and people are telling you, do yoga or get fit or take a master class or do something that you're thinking, oh, well, should I be being more productive than what I'm doing? And so I think really, allowing yourself the permission to experiment, to be wrong, to
Right.
to say, I'm going to do this every day and then only do it 2 days. Just give yourself permission. I'm going to do this for 2 hours. And realistically, you might be 15 minutes in, and that's fine. But permission to find our practice in what that means to us. It doesn't just mean a physical yoga class where you're moving in these specific shapes. It doesn't just mean sitting down and closing your eyes and being really quiet as you can and trying to find this place of non-thought. I mean, these are great starting points, but everyone maybe doesn't love that. And so I think being permission to ourselves to move how we want to move. And when you get into creating a space that feels good, creative sparks will start to kind of fly of what do you want to do? Would you like to pick up meditation? Are you picking up some other creative hobby? I know you said the other day that really often when you're doing yoga, you might be in your living room or wherever, and when you're in some class, might kind of jump out of your yoga brain for a second. You start feeling super inspired for something that you want to create. You want like tell me something about that. How that might also be yoga. Suddenly you get this idea and you paint this beautiful piece or something.
Yeah, I mean it's which chakra is that, Kelly? It's our sacral chakra. Or no, it's It's not the root one. It's the next one up, and I can't think of words right now.
Activity. Someone tell us.
Right.
And you'll get bonus stars. But yeah, all of our chakras are really aligning, right? When we're painting and being creative and in the moment.
Well, and sorry, I'm trying to still see if I can see the live part so I can see if anybody's commenting and get the feedback. But of course, it's not working. So whatever, guys. We'll figure it out later. Maybe next time. Still leave the comments though, because we can get back to you later. Sorry that we're still figuring this out. No, yeah, exactly that. To your point, I just, of course, like I said, sometimes the words escape me, and I can't think of titles to things like yoga poses and chakras. It's great. So
the essence is all we really care about, right?
well, and ultimately, I love it because it's the quality of all of our humanness, right? So like, I love having this conversation with you. I feel like we talk about it at least once a week, where I talk about how like you and I are yoga teachers, and to our friends and maybe students, like maybe they have an expectation of what we are or should be or different things like that. And as yoga teachers, we are so human, right? So like we struggle with all the same things that everybody else does. So all the ideas that we're pitching and proposing to people today, it's definitely not coming from a place of we're perfect, so we know everything, so here you go. It's definitely the place of, hey, guess what? We fumble, we fall, we mess up, we figure this out, and here's some of the ways that we figured it out, and we want to share that with you and be in this togetherness with you, you know.
Yeah, to have some kind of divine experimenting, something
Yeah.
for everyone, but the experimenting of creating a home base, and like we said, whatever that looks like, that feels good and feels positive. And if you have other people living in your space, especially if you have children or you have pets or you have whatever, really what you actually have control over is very little. And even cleanliness of it all is very little. It's a ton of control. But saying, I walk by this picture every single day and I don't really like it is something that you have control over. Or saying, I am going to set this 20 minutes aside, or I'm at least going to scoot some stuff out of the way to roll around on the floor for a little while. I mean, these are what we can control, and what it may sound silly until we try it, until we experiment with how it feels. And you're like, oh, yes, my spine did need that. My emotional body did want to get in this childlike, animal-like thing that, if a teacher is guiding something on a Zoom class or whatever, this is really great. But if you find yourself off in your own cycle and then painting a picture or doing whatever, then you're still doing the yoga. You're living fully in the moment and fully in your breath. And I think when we find stuff that we're passionate about, for us, it is yoga. It's always yoga. It's easy, but for it to say yoga. But if you are not really doing a yoga practice every day, or you're not super kind of in that rabbit hole, anything that you love, anything that you focus on and that you have passion for doing is an amazing yoga spiritual practice. Anything. It could be any hobby on the entire planet. If you are loving it, you're breathing while you're doing it, and you're enjoying, you are also doing yoga.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that higher levels of interconnectivity and the whole going inward and clearing things out. And you and I kind of touched on that the other day, because exactly what you were referencing. I was telling you, like, man, I've been wanting to do these like wonderful classes with all these teachers that I love. And then I started in my sacred space that I've already created for myself, and I still can't like mentally, emotionally get there. And then I get frustrated, and like this whole situation happens, and then I'm like mad at myself. And in working through that, I got to the point of like letting that go and just being okay with whatever came. So like last time that this happened, I was like, you know what, fuck it, like I don't want to do that pose, I want to do this pose. And so I just started doing my own poses. Next thing you know, I'm doing my own flow. Half of it's not even yoga, like traditional poses. It was just like me spinning around on my mat, doing whatever felt good. And next thing you know, like that energy opened up, and I was called to paint, and I was called like, oh, I want to create from like this depths of my soul. I just want to like make things, and I think to your point, when we were both saying, when I'm painting, when I'm creating, it is its own form of yoga, but it's in the way that like we're not distracted by all those other things. And that is where we're ideally trying to get to within our asana practice or our meditation practice. But noticing when we are able to accomplish it in other parts of our lives is really empowering, because then next thing you know, you can like harness that and bring it into your practice that is on the mat. But again, like all of it is okay. All of it is good. We're learning from all of it. We're connecting from all of it. And that's ultimately what we're looking for, or what we're going for, right? Like, and I used to say this, yeah, I used to say this a lot when we were in YTT. So I rode a motorcycle back then. And like,
yeah, she did. Yes, she did. And she had this awesome jacket and she had these boots. She had these boots. Oh, it was so good. Those were the good old days.
Right. And so I still have a motorcycle, so I still technically ride a motorcycle, but at the time I didn't have a car. And so that was my primary form of transportation. I was on that bike every single day. And I used to talk about how it was such a like epiphany for me when I realized like riding my motorcycle was the same as yoga in my mind, because I was like, I needed to have like mental clarity. I needed to like be paying attention to what my body was doing. I needed to like not let my mind get distracted, because that's how you get hurt. And like so many things. So I felt like I was practicing yoga every time I rode, because I don't want to die. But like, to be honest, like, so
because it does require every little bit of effort and every little bit of focus, to make sure that you're making the right decisions and that you're moving with the wind and moving with everyone around you. It's this dance that, we're in yoga, we're achieving it in practice. In that kind of a situation, that's how you're doing this full on living in the moment dance in real life. It's like taking that experimental knowledge into applied setting and realizing how, yes, empowering it is. In aspects of your life that you have passion, and in aspects of your life where you do things well, whatever that is, you're like, oh, I am the master at this. I am the shit. Whatever that thing is, that's your yoga. That's it. I mean, so I think pulling it all together, we really want to ask, what are other people doing? How are people cultivating these really awesome spaces in their houses? We love comments. We love photos of your space.
yeah.
Too, if you want to start moving some stuff around, throwing things away or donating things on, if you're like really get into a groove, then definitely, we are for that. And next week when we talk, we're going to do same bat time, same bat channel. We are going to bring on a really awesome mentor of mine, and we're going to talk about mentorship in general. What do you do in your life when you need somebody to talk to, an older, wiser friend, a therapist, a mentor, a yoga teacher, but someone who you really love. And so we'll kind of dive in over the next couple of weeks over mentorship and what even is that, and how you can still get connections right now. But I know what I really want is for you to take us through just a couple moments, so if people can watch later, then they might go through just a minute or a couple minutes of, kind of feeling that creative space into ourselves and what's calling us. And so I would really love kind of to end with that moment or a couple moments where we can just kind of breathe together and you can tell us some things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Kelly is saying that she wants me to do the little reflection that I started for us. So, if you're feeling up to it, anyone that might be watching or watching later, if you feel comfortable enough, find a seat, whatever that looks like, couch, floor, whatever. And again, if you feel comfortable, maybe close your eyes, find a nice tall spine. Let's start with just some breath here to center ourselves, clear the mind out. So take a deep inhale in through the nose. Let it fill up the chest, to the ribs, maybe even into the belly. Feel the breath in the body. Pause at the top, full of breath, full of life. And then when you're ready, slow exhale, release from that belly space, release from the ribs, from the chest, out the nose. And if this feels really good and nourishing to your body, stay here and breathe just like that. If you need to make any adjustments, whether that's opening your eyes or breathing in a different way, you're welcome to do the things that make you feel even more comfortable. But just creating that space with breath. Keeping a clear mind. And for you, I would like to just bring up this awareness, right? So right now, We're creating space within the body, within the mind, all the subtle bodies with our breath. And that's exactly what we're doing when we create sacred space. So this is a perfect example of how the breath is life. It's force. It is our practice. And we do it so easily and readily every day in our own bodies. And now we can take the same feeling, the same practice, and we can start to spread it to other parts of our lives. So today we're calling to you to just create a sacred space within your home, your physical space, your mental, emotional, and spiritual space, whatever that is. And it doesn't matter what the space looks like or how big or small it is. There is no right or wrong answers, just creating a space that calls to you. Make what you want, just let it be, and then be there and be still. It is just like this breath. So when you guys are ready, gently open your eyes, come back to this moment, and just thank you for sharing it with Kelly and I. Let us know how this goes for you. Give us any feedback. My dear friend, I'm so happy to be creating with you.
I am really happy that we're able to do this too. We'll have this posted. We'll keep it up. We'll probably share around also with some friends so you can tell us what you think. We'd love to know your feedback. Thank you for the meditation. Also, it feels really nice just to be able to breathe and to be able to be in our own bodies and breath, cycle for a few moments. So I'm really grateful to you. The, something that I felt called that I really didn't think about until this very moment is that sometimes the only sacred space that we have is our body. And, when you kind of dropped me in right in that moment into my own physical body, if all you have is your body, then be grateful for the body, hug it, love it, have fun with it. And if everything is kind of crazy in your outside world, it's okay. Your body is your life. That is what we're in control of. It's our own damn self. So feel empowered in that we are, always supported, even in our own selves. So I'm really excited, and we will see all of you next week. We're going to do some posting and things so that everybody can tell us what you think. And next week will be about mentorship. And I'm Kelly, and this is Cherise, and we are just really, really happy to be off the mat with you. This is us. It's Yogis Off the Mat. We're just out in the wild doing it all.
Yes, girl.
Yeah, so we will stay with you soon and talk to you same time next week.